Okay, so I'm continuing my build on the, don't have a name for it yet, the Master Frame 360. You guys should help me think of what to name it. But anyway, I showed you in that I got the Bitspower 5090 Astral Block. I bought this, actually no, I didn't buy this. I got this from, sent to me by Performance PCs. But Bitspower has been around for a long time, but I've never used one of their GPU blocks. Now for the 5090 Astral, so far I've only used the Delta Mate block from Der Bauer, from Thermal Grizzly. But I'm really interested to see how well this one performs. So here's what I've already done off camera. I've already run a full thermal test on this Astral, which I'm gonna be putting the Waterblock on. And I wanna see how much our temps come down and maybe how much our clock speeds stay stable underwater, but just how much. And it's gonna be the first actual test of using our water cooling testing station. But in old school fashion, I'm gonna take you guys along for the ride of the installation. So far, I think it's gonna be one of the easiest blocks to install because all the thermal pads are already pre-installed. The worst part about installing a water block on a GPU is making sure you get the right thermal pad in the right spot with the right height, because all thermal pads are different thicknesses based on what they have to touch. And if you put a 2 mil pad where a 1 mil pad is supposed to go, you actually can completely screw the install and actually have an overheating graphics card. So that's what we're gonna do today. Look, as tech geeks, we would protect our internet connection with things like VPNs and we like antiviruses and stuff, but why would you leave your bank account information fully exposed to the internet? That's why today I'm gonna talk to you about privacy.com, because privacy.com is almost like a VPN for your bank account. Privacy.com allows you to create virtual cards that you can use anywhere online, allowing you to keep a complete dedicated buffer between your bank information and the site that you might be buying from. And trust me, with data breaches these days, as somebody that's had credit card and bank information leak, having to go in and cancel all those cards and figure out everywhere that those payments were set up was a complete pain in the butt. Now, one of the best use cases for a virtual card like this is online subscription services. They do not make it easy for you to cancel, but you know what is easy? You can go in and cancel the card that you used to sign up for these subscriptions so that they can no longer charge you any hidden fees. Or when you cancel the service, they've got that, oh, just one more charge because you missed the date by a certain cutoff date. Nope, you can lock or cancel the virtual card to stop the charges while you're in the process of canceling the subscription. Now let's also say you want to go and buy a gift for someone and it's from a site that you've never heard of and you've got some real reservations about putting real card information inside that merchant's payment form. So you can go in and create a virtual card that's a one-time use card. So then you're not worrying about whether or not that merchant's going to sell that card information, because guess what? It'll only work one time. So it's fully customizable on the types of cards that you want to create, allowing you to have the least amount of exposure when it comes to unknowns when shopping online. Now, I'm a very difficult person to shop for, and when Christmas time rolls around or birthday time rolls around, my wife says she can never buy me anything because I see the bank statements. So I always know what's coming ahead of time. So that's why the extra anonymity you get with private spend mode, which replaces a merchant name on your bank statement with a generic privacy.com descriptor, makes it really easy to surprise somebody without them knowing what they're getting because they saw it on the bank statement. Now, one reason why I've been a customer of privacy.com for over 8 years now is the fact that Privacy doesn't sell customer data. Ever. Like other credit card companies, Privacy collects transaction fees called interchange from merchants. They don't and never will sell customer data, and protecting your privacy isn't just part of their business, it's in their name. Go to privacy.com/Jays2cents, that's privacy.com/Jays2cents, and get your $5 sign-up bonus today. And that $5 can be used on your first purchase. So sign up for Privacy to get control over who charges you and when, and get peace of mind when shopping online. Click the link in the description to start making privacy part of your daily routine. First things we're gonna do is show you guys how to tear down an Astral, because I'm sure all of you have Astrals and you're like, how the hell do I take it apart? So we're gonna go ahead and do that today. It's actually really easy to take apart. We're gonna start with these nice, dang it, I forgot I tightened that with, like, for whatever reason, the Hulk force. I don't know why I do that, but I tend to over tighten the screws sometimes. So we're gonna start with these screws on the back of the cooler right here. It's important to keep in mind, as soon as you take off these rear screws, the card is not gonna come apart. It comes apart in 3 pieces, and that's what makes the Astral just a little bit different. So we're gonna take those out. These are spring-loaded screws right here. We'll take these out next. So there's 2 of these. I also recommend you get yourself something to put these screws in, or like obviously I'm using one of my Jays2cents gaming mats, which you can find underneath this video. A little dirty, we've used it quite a bit, but it also makes a really good soft surface so that you're not hurting anything when you take it apart. Let's go over here, take these guys off. Now they're getting smaller and smaller as we go. Just make sure you keep tabs of what goes where. I've torn these cards apart enough now to know exactly where every screw goes with my eyes closed. But you might look at this and go, why won't the backplate come off now? Well, because the backplate actually has screws on the underside sandwiching it together. So we also now have to take off the core tensioner. So this is a retention bracket for the heatsink against the core, but it also is designed to create tension against the core for good mounting pressure. You can tell it's under pressure by the fact that the screw's like, Those are captive, so they're not gonna fall out. So that's kind of nice. But what you'll notice now, and this is where you need to be careful, because your fans are attached to this bracket right here, but they're not ready to come out yet because we have to take off some of these guys right here. So you're gonna take off these two, and these are a tapered head screw, and they only go on the back plate here. And then we need to take off this guy, I believe it is. And then see now we're free once we take those three off. I'm not sure with this GPU cooler yet if I'm gonna be replacing, if it comes with a new, maybe a single slot, or it can't be a single slot because there's the HDMI right there. So anyway, I don't know if it comes with the new one or not. But now you have this play where you can actually remove the fan shroud, but you still have the fan wires right here that need to be connected. So we've got 3 wires we need to disconnect. One's RGB and one is fan. You can actually do this with your fingers. You don't need a special tool. Just push down the retention. So that is good enough there. Our fans are free. It's a pretty neat design. I like it. Now we're gonna go ahead and unplug this guy right here, which is a little bit harder because you can see the wire sort of tucked. So what I like to do is see if we can't get a little bit of slack on that wire. So I'm putting this underneath so I can get some up tension. That way when I push the tab and pop it up, it comes right up. So basically I did like this cantilever action on it. Now that's free, because there's not a lot of slack. That's all the slack there is on that right there. And that's for this fan right here. But the reason why we want to undo that now is because as we undo the major heatsink part from the card and the back plate, it's gonna want to come apart and you don't want to yank on those wires. So now you can see we have these screws right here. This is the part I told you that was sandwiching the back plate. And you'll notice these guys are a little shorter than those ones I showed you on the very front of the back plate. So keep in mind, the long ones go on the back plate side through, the shorter ones go on the GPU side to the back plate. So that's why I say just make sure you keep track of what goes where. Otherwise you'll find if you put these long ones in right here, they'll come sticking through the hole. So here, they're the same thread. I'll go ahead and demonstrate it. See? See how that's sticking through? So that's why the short ones go from GPU to backplate, then the long ones go from backplate to GPU. All right, so we've got one up here as well. We've released the heatsink now, but there's still screws going down holding the backplate to the PCB. So what you want to do now is just gently rock this back and forth. There we go, because the only thing that was holding it together now was the thermal paste. And then now you can see right here where I've got 1, 2, 3 more screws affixing the back plate to the GPU, or the PCB. So that's why I was saying, like, I've seen people kind of get confused on how this thing comes apart because of the fact that it doesn't just come apart, you know, from outside in like you would think. There's parts that are being held together, but other parts are being held together, but they're being held by this side and this side while simultaneously that side. And it's good, it gives nice mounting tension everywhere that's needed with all these thermal pads and such. But if you start yanking and you're not sure what came off of where or what's still attached, you could absolutely cause damage to your board. Okay, yeah. So this one here was going down through the bracket, as you can see, but then it was screwing into the backplate. So it was sandwiching this arm to the backplate. Okay, so now would be a good time, if you're a messy person, to maybe throw these in Ziploc bag or something. What I like to do is when I'm done, I'll put the cooler and everything back together just without the PCB, and then I'll just screw everything into where it goes. Even right now, like if I knew, okay, these short ones all go, you know, like here and such, just put them back in their places, then you don't have to guess where they go. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and remove these thermal pads very carefully, kind of roll them up. I don't wanna tear them. I'm gonna put them back where they go, and then I need to clean off that core. Now also keep in mind, there are these small ones here, there, and there. Those are cooling small little not MOSFETs, but other little controllers that are on the board. These like to stick and then they blend in. You don't want to stack pads, because if the new Waterblock is putting a pad there as well, and you stack those up, then it won't sit flush where it's supposed to, and you'll have bad contact. So just make sure to look at the cooler side, and if you notice there's a missing pad, kind of hold it up and think, oh, where is it on here? And then find it. Sometimes they can be dark gray or black and really blend in. That's unfortunately the part I'm not happy with on the Delta Mate thermal pads, because I've taken that one on and off so many times with the XOC stuff. They're black thermal pads, and so I don't see them when they get stuck to the RAM. So
they look exactly like
RAM chips. So anyway, all right, I need to clean all this off right now. This is where a soft bristle toothbrush and isopropyl alcohol really comes in handy, just to clean off the top of the chips, anywhere it might have leftover thermal pad grease. And then obviously we need to clean off all of that thermal paste, because we don't want to mix two different types of thermal paste. So let me clean this all up and we'll be right back. Okay, so here's the card. Like I said, I put all the screws back where they go and everything, so you don't lose them. All right, this is the Bitspower BPM-VG5090 ASA, which stands for VG for VGA, 5090 for 5090, and ASA for acetyl.
Acetyl.
Acetyl?
Or maybe Asus Astral, Asus A. I don't know.
So it'd be Asus Sterile. Okay, whatever.
Asus Sterile.
So I've already opened this up before. It was in a vacuum seal bag. It's already kind of screwed together. My God, I forgot how heavy this is. Okay, there's that. This is, looks like we have essentially all the same size screws. That'd be kind of nice. So if we look here, it has another bag of, yeah, it looks like they're all the same size. Looks like they're the same size as the long ones I took off too, that go through the cooler that I showed you. It's got its own Allen key, which I won't be using. Thermal paste, Bitspower TP1. Okay, 2.5 grams of that. Anything in here? Make sure the contact of block are correct and double check it. You can use tool to make the contact more closely if the block have standoff design. Okay, so the back plate's currently being held on by 2 screws. I would much rather use my iFixit kit than their little tool. We don't want any little tools around here. We want big tools. So I'm using a box to create an overhang, because obviously this hangs down. That way I can have this spot here to line everything up. Okay, yeah, so it'll just be reusing one screw. So that screw I just took off right there is going to go through one of these, I think it's this hole right here, into there, but I'll do that last. I'll just set that one aside. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm going to go ahead and carefully peel off. I don't want to damage it. So I'm gonna get some tweezers, because I don't want to damage any of the thermal pad. Okay, so let's now flip it over and then just line up the holes. Boom. This is a question I get sometimes. People ask me, like, this guy right here, the retention bracket, it does not reuse that. Or is it going to reuse it? That would actually be really smart if it did. And we do have a cutout for it right there. All right, well, let's see. I think it, Jay, why don't you just looking up the manual? Because I like to trial by fire. Look at that though. Like, even the roundness of the bracket matches the roundness of there. So I think that's actually gonna be how it goes. Now you might be like, but the Z-axis, once it's flattened, it's gonna, once it's tightened, it's gonna go flat. So just start a couple threads on one corner, go to the opposite corner, get a couple threads, and then just like a star pattern, get it started. It's obvious I have to use this. Their screws don't thread into this, but the factory screws for this bracket do. Now make sure all the other screws are, because there is a little play, make sure all the other holes line up. Otherwise, when you tighten that down, you may not be able to get the farthest away screw. Because if you're off by a fraction here, it's gonna be a lot farther off here. I'm very impressed with this so far. This, like I said, this is my first Bitspower block I've ever installed. And I would say so far, the teardown is far more involved than the installation of this block. I think the teardown is the part that scares most people. But I've gotten plenty of emails from people saying, I installed a Waterblock and now my card won't post. Because if they're not careful, let's say they tighten something down crooked the first time and they're not paying attention and they crush a cap or they crush a component and then they realign it and tighten it down, they've already done the damage. So that does happen, it's unfortunate. So I'm just gonna start these all kind of loosely because it's gonna compress that pad quite a bit. So once I get them all sort of in their spot loose, then I'm gonna go around and sort of give a little snug to it after it's sort of compressed that pad. Because as that pad starts to, those pads on the back start to compress, they can compress further once there's more tension on it. So like I said, I didn't go full tight on that. Like that one's not even tightening down on anything right there. There we go. See, I had to give it a bit of a push to get it down. Not abnormal at all. If you get the perimeters in, then you'll know the middle screws will line up. Yeah, I'm giving this like a 4 out of 10 on difficulty to install. Only because I don't think there's too many things that actually would qualify any lower, because you have to clean the thermal pad or the material. You have to clean off the thermal interface material off of the core. You've got to make sure all the pad material's off. You got to make sure the grease is off. However, we're going to take all this off again because it's a really good test fit. Because I forgot the thermal paste because I was so involved in like, wow, look at this install style. But hey, since they're all on the back plate, it's really easy to get this back off. But see, even somebody that's done this 1,000 times can still make the same mistake. And that mistake for me obviously was forgetting to put on the thermal paste. Just kidding. I did this as a lesson to see how many people caught it and were typing it before I pointed out like, just kidding.
Yeah, put in the comments if you noticed that and you were screaming at your screen. And don't cheat. If you didn't notice it, you can't say
Oh, they're gonna cheat. Of course they're gonna cheat. So because they don't give me a spatula, and I am doing a review on this right now thermally, I'm going to do my X pattern. And yes, this is a lot of thermal paste, and that's okay. It's direct dye, it ain't gonna hurt anything. Yeah, now it's all squishy. It's like when I sit in the couch at the end of the day, like, oh. It's like, okay, now that we have thermal paste installed, we're right back to where we were. So how many of you passed, huh? Be honest, don't lie now. I wonder how many people are gonna be like, I was just giving the benefit of the doubt, like maybe you guys did it off camera.
That'd be surprising. That'd be fun, that'd be fun.
Nobody ever gives me the benefit of the doubt. I really like this backplate design. You know why? Because I feel like it would be really good at hiding any sort of scratches that could happen on it. Okay, and then this guy goes right here. And this just is screwing into the acrylic, so just go snug. Don't like torque it down. All right, that's fully installed. That was easy. Like the actual installation process, once you have that torn down and the card clean and prepped, 5 minutes. If you don't forget to do the thermal paste, which I didn't do. I just was testing you guys, like I already said. So now the BIOS switch is not marked on here like it is on the air cooler. On which way is quiet mode and which way is performance mode, so you have to reference your air cooler for that still. So I need to get this plumbed up. I'm gonna run it for 20 minutes at 600 watts. What I do for my 600 watt test is I load the Explorer mode on Steel Nomad, and then it's just the first shot. I don't move. So it's just sitting there, not moving. And I confirmed at 4K, with Steel Nomad being a non-ray tracing test, still pulls a full 600 watts from the card nonstop. So it'll be really interesting to see how long it takes to reach equilibrium and what the temperature improvements are, because I wanna say on air, it was 77, 78 C, so maybe closer to 80. I haven't looked at the chart yet, but that was stock fan curve, nothing touched, no profile and MSI or any of that, just out of the box on the test bench in a room that is kept at 72 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 22.2 C Celsius. And let's see how this does. Check out my infinite cooling loop. Anyway, that was fun, using my water cooling station for testing for the first time with an actual legit test. All right, so in news that's not news, the Waterblock made it colder. So, no, but just how much colder? Okay, remember, like I said, we run a 560 rad and a 280 rad in series to completely overcool the system or keep the fluid temp as cold as possible. So the only thing determining the delta between how cold this core is the transfer rate of the block itself. And we're just under 25C colder by going obviously with the water block. So this is a 600 watt card. Like back in the day, I used to be able to keep my cards running at some like low 30s under load when they were 250 watt cards. This is more than double that, right? So the fact that this card topped out at about 47.8C is pretty amazing, considering the fact that it is just, you know, obviously it's a factory overclocked card. But more importantly, I checked the memory temps too, because the memory is also being touched by the full coverage block here. And we dropped about 12 to 15C. You'll see there's these little spikes where they hit like 1 degree up and then they come right back down. But almost, anywhere between 12 on the minimum side to 15C on the high side of cooling on the memory. But what does that translate to real world performance? Well, if we take a look at the frequency here, because frequency is directly tied to temperature, and on the 50 series cards, especially 5090s, the boost bins start really, really low. In fact, doing XOC, when I have liquid nitrogen on these cards, I will see the first boost bins when I am around 20C. Actually, I'll see them before that, usually in the 10s. It's crazy how low that frequency to temperature scale starts. But we gained almost 100 megahertz across the board on our Steel Nomad test by simply keeping the temperatures down. Now, as you can see, it goes up to, if we look at the frequency chart, it goes right up to about 2870 or so, and then just bounces up and down a couple of bins across the board. I was actually kind of looking over the data here. What's actually happening here is it's not going up and down based on temperature at all. It's going up and down based on what's happening in the scene. Remember, Steel Nomad in the Explorer mode does not mean the scene isn't moving. The guy is still coming in on the speeder, he's still parking, he's still plugging in and stealing, you know, EV charging from the orb thing right there, and then he's walking over and trying to hack the computer. All that stuff is still happening. So as that scene is changing, you're seeing some demand changes on the GPU itself. So that's why you'll see some of the fluctuations in the frequency up and down a couple of it's like 15 megahertz is the most I saw it move up and down. But if you take a look at the air cooler frequency line, you can see as temps go up, frequency slides down, and then it normalized right around the mid 2700s on the frequency. Now let's talk about price. Obviously, water cooling is a niche. Obviously, water cooling is a hobby, and it is something I love, and it's why I incorporate it on this channel. It is also something that has gotten astronomically more expensive than it used to be. A full cover water block for like a 1080 or a 1080 Ti was about $130, and people were like, "Oh my God, that's so expensive!" Because you could find some of the cheaper brands maybe making them at around $100, maybe even like $90. This one was $464. It's like the price of a 9060 XT graphics card. Right? That's what's, if you think about it, like we just threw another like entry-level mid-range graphics card onto the 5090. But so I'm not, obviously 100 megahertz, 25C on the core is not worth $464. If you cared about min-maxing like that, but you didn't have the budget, you would just set your fans on the Astral to 100% and probably get fairly close to the results we saw here with water, at a cost of a lot of noise. Water cooling obviously allows you to have a much more silent PC, but it has a much more maintenance-intensive PC when you start having fluid in your system. But what we didn't talk about is the fact that by being able to keep the core as cold as we are, we actually gain a better stability curve when it comes now to overclocking the card. I have absolutely no doubt I could run this card with this block on that water cooling setup at 3300 megahertz all day long at 600 watts, because there's no additional power limit available to this card. On air, I wouldn't be able to maintain the 3300 megahertz because as we bring the frequency up, it's going to obviously bring the temperature up with it. Even though the voltage stays the same and the wattage stays the same, the higher frequency does put more load on the core, and it does increase the temperatures even though the voltages and stuff were pretty static. But what you'll notice is, just like we showed you here, even on the air cooler, that temperature, that frequency curve comes down as the temperature curve goes up. The same thing would happen with the fans at 100%. So it'd probably start at 3300 and then probably drop all the way down below 3200, maybe even to the low 3100, maybe even under 3100. Yes, these are some enthusiast grade numbers we're talking here, but this is an enthusiast grade product, and obviously that's the audience that we're talking to right now. So on a water block like this, I would have been able to pretty closely maintain the 3300 plus. In fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if this could go even higher than that at, say, something like maybe even, I don't know. Let's throw it on there real quick and see, and then we'll go ahead and get the heck out of here, because now I just feel like I'm rambling going, how is Jay gonna justify a $464 water block? I'm not. I just think if you've already spent $3,300 on a graphics card, what's $464 more? You know what's honest? What's crazy right now? The way this is going, it's like 2 tanks of gas. If you guys actually haven't seen me building this thing, this monstrosity is so ugly. I did not care about wire management or anything. Actually, Singularity Computers recently put out like a picture of them building their own with hard tubes. It was really pretty, but obviously this is function over form at this point. But these are quick disconnects, and when you quick disconnect them, you get about a drop of fluid that'll come out. But I've got this plumbed up inlet outlet. Get this on my board. No, I'm just like, I honestly believe if you want a water-cooled system, but you need ultimate maintenance capability, quick disconnects, because I can have just the CPU plugged in to the water box. Or I can be like, all right, so this is out to the in, out from the water block to the in on the CPU block, out of the CPU block, back to the water box. We are now plumbed in. That's exactly what you get with quick disconnects. And then there we go, we're up and running. Oh, I forgot the most important part. There we go. It is. Okay, so we're gonna do just a quick dirty overclock here. I wanna see if I can put my frequency where my mouth is. I think we can get 3300 to run on this card. All right, so we're gonna be using Steel Nomad, which is how I run my temperature test here. So we're in Explorer mode and we're turning off full screen. That way we can keep an eye on our telemetry here. This is an older version of Afterburner. I'm only on 4.6.5, which is not actually giving me the voltage slider. I can't actually update MSI to 4.6.6 right now, which is better for 50 series because our ISP is down. So, business internet, 99.9% uptime. Anyway, so I'm not even gonna touch memory though. Will 400 go? Like it will, but I need to move that slider so I can get the full 1100 millivolts if this card has capable to it. 450 will probably crash, watch. Yeah. Darn, it dawned on me right now that I don't have the version of MSI Afterburner that I need to be able to get that 3300, but still, I'm pretty confident that if I'd done the 3200 right there and let it go, it just would have stayed 3200. So, all right, well, there you go, $464 for that block. It is not cheap by any means, and that's just unfortunately become the way it is across the board. The days of $130 or $150 top tier blocks are long gone. I remember when we crossed 200, it was like a existential crisis for water cooling enthusiasts. And here's the crazy part. The lower end blocks look very, very similar. By lower end blocks, I mean the same like Bitspower blocks for say like a 4070 Ti or a 5070 Ti or whatever. If you can find them, they're like half the price. Even though they look the same and they're using the same materials. It's just one of those like, it's like the luxury car tax, right? You have an expensive car, they know you can afford it, so they're just gonna charge you it, and it sucks. But that's what it is, and that's what the whole point of this build is. It's an enthusiast build. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Expect to see more water cooling content, especially as we approach the summer months here. Not Australia. You guys just open the window. It's cold. It's cold down there. Natural cooling. No, we live in the desert, so we're gonna do what we can to keep our stuff as cool as possible, and I know a lot of people absolutely live in that same scenario where their PCs are starting to get warmer and maybe crashing more often now because of the fact that they're getting so warm. The only thing I can't recreate and really help with is those of you that live in super humid hot climates like say Hawaii, Southeast Asia, Pan Pacific, India. I can't,
South.
Anywhere but where we are, honestly.
Yeah.
We live in a very dry climate. All right, guys, thanks for watching. As always, we'll see you in the next one. And you'll see this. It's like at the end of every Marvel movie. The Bitspower 5090 will return.